Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the October 2023 MSMF Wealth Management Podcast. As always, I'm joined by Cody Redding and Jay Peters. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing good.
I am doing super fantastic. We find our Mizzou Tigers at 6-1, bowl eligible, and after Game 7, rock and roll, man.
Doesn't happen often.
Rock and roll, man. Good St. Louis kid, Luke Bauer, threw a touchdown pass, fake punt. Rock and roll. All right. So with that as a backdrop, I want to talk today. We did a mailbag segment a couple months ago. So we decided to rebrand. Rebrand, you like that? The mailbag segment to Real Client Conversations. So this is Real Client Conversations Part 2. So what I thought I would do, we kind of put our heads together with the three of us, as well as Craig, who's with Chris behind the board today, and talked about recent questions clients have asked us. Okay, and I'm going to start out with a really, really fun one for me and you because it's one of Cody's favorite topics. So Jay, put your seatbelt on. I may put a 5-point harness on. So first question to you, Cody: with all of this inflation, should we be buying gold in our portfolio?
Yeah, it's my favorite. No, so gold. I don't know if it's commercials that pop up. I know I've seen it on some news outlets and things like that. But usually when inflation is around, commodities and or gold kind of gets thrown into it. Number one, I'd say in most everyone's portfolio, there's a little exposure to commodities, which usually has some gold in there. Gold's price is going to fluctuate by supply and demand because there is no dividend that's paid out from a gold. There is no earnings that you can look at and say, okay, here's what the future price might be. So that's why it's always a little tricky because it's definitely a speculative type play. And right now, people want to be in investments that they probably should have been in maybe a year or 2 years ago. Now gold's at nearing an all-time high. I think it's almost like $1,900 an ounce. So it's probably not the best timing to go down that avenue, but just know that you do have some exposure of it in your portfolio. And going back and looking at, is it actually an inflation hedge? I don't find a lot of correlation looking at charts of inflation and during times when gold's done really good. So, last year would be a good example of that, right? And this year, I think it's kind of just taken an even pace. So while we've had higher inflation, gold price hasn't necessarily gone crazy like you would think. And I think more appropriate would be overall, should I have commodities in my portfolio, just not being focused on gold? Like I said, a lot of your portfolios do have a small exposure, so very small. Because there is no correlation of that type of market with the actual equity markets.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is the infomercials aren't true?
The infomercials, they're not true. Who was the one guy we were looking at?
William Devane.
William Devane, yeah. So just YouTube that if you want to chuckle.
He bought the $10 glass of lemonade.
He did,
and he supports
inflation.
small business.
What a great commercial. That will last forever.
So, yeah, all in all, you probably have a portion of it in your portfolio already, but I don't think I would make that a main focus on the portfolio.
Perfect. Thank you. And you
You're
were
welcome.
very subdued. I'm impressed.
I was.
Okay, so let me transition to another one I know we all get. It's, hey, I'm done with the headaches at work. I'm done. Can I retire at the end of the year? And, I've seen you guys answer this question. I know how Craig and I answer this question now. It kind of breaks itself into what I'll say a subjective part of that answer and then an objective part of the answer. So, Cody, let's start with you with the subjective answer to when someone says, hey, can I retire soon or at the end of the year or, the day before yesterday when they're frustrated at work?
Yeah, I'd have to say, what does retirement mean to you? Is it going from full-time to maybe working part-time somewhere else, or is it going from a full-time position to a part-time position? And that kind of narrows down. Or do you have a lot of people, retirement's just not stopping work. It's a whole phase, right? It's you're losing kind of your friend group when you retire, and it's where you spend 8-9 hours a day. So it's more certainly a mental change, not just a financial change that happens. So are you kind of ready for all that? And you know, I think also with a lot of our clients we see is they're ready for retirement. They stop, but then 2 months later they're back at doing something part time
Right,
or
yeah.
volunteering or whatever it might be, just because they like to keep themselves busy.
Right. Right. And I think that the point on that, Cody, is that, and we all know this, everyone knows 110% what they're retiring from, but they don't really know what they're retiring to in a lot of cases.
Right.
And it's getting them to your point of think through, well, what are you really going to do? Are we stopping work? Are we working part-time? How are you going to fill your day, your week, your month in retirement? I know you're frustrated, right? Can't stand your boss, can't stand your colleagues. You're just tired of the work, but we got to think through that process.
Right.
And I think, Jay, turning it over to you, and maybe you can share with everyone the process that we typically follow. We usually don't get this question from someone where we don't have them prepared for what the answer is, because we like to do this several years in advance, because not only what Cody talked about, but there's a large strategy and planning aspect. So maybe you could share with everyone when we get this question, and we've got it recently, the objective parts of what we look at and what you coach people through.
Yeah. So the first thing is just kind of taking a tally of, okay, what are your assets? Where are they? And so for most of our clients, that means we're either going to do one of two things most of the time. One is make a balance sheet. And, we have a lot of our clients in eMoney that we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Another newer tool that we're starting to use more and more is called Asset Map,
Mm-hmm.
where it does kind of the same thing, but it's just a different visual of the same thing, right? What do you have? Where is it? Because if you're going to start relying on your portfolio, your balance sheet for income, we need to know, is it enough, right? And so that's part of the analysis that we're doing. What do you have? Where is it? How much is it? How long is it going to last you, right? The second important part of that is going to be, what other type of income sources are you expecting? If you're not, getting a paycheck, well, maybe we're going to be starting to use the Social Security. Maybe a pension is available that you've been contributing to.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of other income sources too. I don't want to list them all out, but that's another thing that we're going to sit down and talk about. Okay, what do you have and when is it available? So that then we can start filling in gaps using your portfolio.
Right.
And then the last thing is taking a really kind of a hard look at your expenses. Because a lot of people, and I see this posed online all the time. I love this question. How much do I need to retire? It's like, I don't know. Or phrased differently, can I retire with blank number?
Right.
The answer is
the old ING commercial where they carried the number over the hedges.
Yeah.
It's the exact thing you're talking about in that visual. It's just like, well, go ahead, because it's
I just shake my head because the answer is, well, maybe.
Right.
Because it's not about how much you have. It's about how much do you live on? What are your expenses?
Right.
What is your lifestyle, right? So getting a great understanding of where your money is going and what your lifestyle looks like, and what is that lifestyle, what do you want it to look like in retirement? Because some people, to Cody's point, have a different, I'm going to retire from this because I want to go travel. I want to go be with my kids who are out of state or something. You know what I mean? All those different things, maybe your expenses might go up for a short term. So understanding, again, your expenses, what's retirement going to look like, your income sources, and then how are we going to use your assets to kind of make it work. That's the, to your point, the objective part. That's a math problem.
Right, 100%.
And that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's great stuff, because it's, again, I laugh all the time, because just in random conversations with folks that aren't clients, hey, this is about how much I have for retirement. Is that enough? And it's the same thing. It's like, how much are you going to spend? Because the number, carrying the number over the hedge for ING, it's different for everyone depending on how much they're going to spend, what they're going to do, what kind of lifestyle they want. Are they going to work part-time?
Right.
Who knows, right?
It's only half of a question.
Right.
You know?
100%. And you get into the whole subjective stuff. It's like, okay, what's that look like? Right. So we get that question a lot. We're getting a lot of the frustration. I'm kind of done. Can we figure this out? And again, I know how you guys do it. Same way here is we all have already been looking at that for several years in advance. So it's not like, hey, suddenly today I want to retire. We know the answer, have known it for a while, because we're looking at both sides of the equation, the subjective and the objective. Super. All right, let's move on to another one that's been coming up a lot more recently, unfortunately. And Jay, I'm gonna toss this over to you. I'm getting pretty nervous about keeping my job. What do I need to do to be ready if the hammer drops on me?
Yeah, it's a reality right now, and we were talking about a couple of our clients that their companies have said, hey, we're going to be making cuts, right? So this is a reality for a lot of people. So the first thing that we like to kind of coach through is, well, let's look at your cash reserves. How much do you have built up? And we have always used the phrase sleep quotient with our clients, how much do you need to make sure. But there's also a math part of that too, of making sure if something like this happens, do you have enough set aside so that you're going to land on your feet once you get everything figured out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is taking a look at your budget, your expenses, making sure that you understand what is essential versus discretionary, or another way of looking at it, this is what it costs for us to live, our living expenses, and this is kind of our lifestyle. Maybe we can change our lifestyle for a little while until we figure it out. Having a good idea of what that is so that if worst does come to worst, you already have an idea of, okay, we're going to have to make these couple changes until we figure out what's next. So that's kind of the second thing. And then the third thing that I like to think about is I have a friend or two who have actually gone through this recently, and they actually ended up with a better job after this. They were let go. They're really bummed about it. They went out and searching for a job, and they actually found a better job. So that's just maybe a quick reminder of, with the current job market, there's a lot of job openings. It might be worth your time if you think you're at risk. Just go ahead and shop around real quick and see if, hey, maybe you can control your fate a little bit.
Right. 100%. That's great stuff. And I know we were talking about it. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot out there. Not that we're trying to predict the economy or the market or anything like that, but it knock on wood, soft landing, no landing. Hopefully we're not heading into a hardcore landing for a recession, but we continue to hear every day about segments of the economy where they're laying off people. But conversely, we hear about segments of the economy that are doing well. So I think, Jay, the advice, keep your finger on the pulse. If you're hearing, murmurs inside your company, is a great idea. And then I think the practical aspect, and I know we talk all the time about people's sleep quotient, how much, is it 3 months, 6 months, working through those numbers. In reality, as you are fully aware, if something happens to someone, they're not going to spend the same way that they were the day before they got let go. So 3 months will carry you 6 or 7. Typically, 6 is going to carry you 8 or 9. So, but again, get your house in order, like you said, and keep your finger on the pulse, because I think, maybe there's not as many opportunities as there are pitfalls right now in terms of losing your job, but there are opportunities out there.
Right.
Okay. So let's close it out with one that we hear probably, I don't know, at least the first part of this every meeting. And that's, I can't believe how expensive things are, right? And then they are. It shocks me. I mean, I'll go into the grocery store. I just won't buy something because I'm like, I am not paying that for that. I just refuse to do it, right? And unfortunately for some folks, I can't believe how expensive things are. My credit card debt is growing. How should I be managing that? Again, so let's close this off by splitting it in two. Cody, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, with the credit card debt, number one, is this like a newer thing, or is this an ongoing thing that's just kind of almost snowballed out of control? Either way, you have to manage the expectations on what expenses can I look at that I cut. Jay's talking about, or do you have a lot of discretionary expenses out there? I know subscription plans are great, but they're also the death of the credit card here. So you can go through, and I'm sure there's some things you can easily look out the cut. And what are the rates on my credit cards currently? Because you want to get them listed out. A lot of times you'll go, Chase or wherever it might be, and they'll have out there what you're paying currently on those rates. Now, as rates have gone up, I'm sure credit card rates have also gone up as well. But you certainly want to tackle the highest interest rate first, or the one that has the biggest balance to where you're shedding out the most in interest rate payments. So, make sure that you have a good handle on exactly what you're paying, because I'll tell you, a lot of them are in that 20% to 25% or higher range, which it's hard just to keep, you're paying the monthly minimums that you have to, and that's basically your interest rate payment. So it's going to keep going up and up and
Sure.
up. And I think what a lot of people forget too is that just because you have credit card debt with that certain company doesn't mean that you can't transfer that over to a new credit card that has like a promo, 0% interest for however many months or a very low interest rate for a specified period of time. And it really helps cut down on how much money is getting wasted on those interest payments. Right. So I think there's a lot of avenues to go through first. It's something that we can certainly take a look at and kind of help guide you with that. Because that is something that can very quickly get out of control.
100%.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point because I always like to say that I think the maximum criminal limit is 24 or 25% on credit cards.
Yep.
If you just think about that for a minute, 24 or 25%, it should be criminal. It's not. I love the idea of transferring 0%, reviewing expenses, essential versus discretionary. But Jay, we've walked through and did everything that Cody suggested that we do. We got that under control. What about if I have some balances? How do I tackle that?
Yeah, so everything that we've talked about so far is like existing debt, right? Well, instead, we can start looking at other parts of your financial life too, right? So maybe you have savings going into, I don't know, a retirement plan or something like that, where maybe you can buckle that down a little bit and use some of that and divert it towards the debt. Maybe the highest interest rate, maybe the smallest balance of doing debt stacking. A couple different strategies there, but using some, you're already going to save it somewhere else. Maybe it'd be better fit, to pay down that debt instead, something like that. And then this is never the fun one, but I think a lot of our clients kind of skip to this one first. Sometimes it might be a good idea to consider another account. Sometimes, and this is why I like using Asset Map, especially if you start putting the interest rates on everything, then people start recognizing, oh, wait, I've got that much in this savings account, that's giving me like 0% savings, but I'm paying this credit card at 22. It's like, yeah, that's reality. If maybe we should move some of that over there and pay off 22% and keep that, you still need a balance over here, of course, but maybe we should put some of that towards it, right? Or even other investments that you have. So a lot of people will want to skip right to their retirement accounts. That probably should be the last thing to think about, obviously. But, maybe there's other investments that we have that we can slow down, stop contributing to, or liquidate some of it to pay off that debt.
Sure. And of course, with your expertise and what Megan does, I mean, not that we're telling everyone to go out to do it, but the home equity loan,
sure,
you could get a lower interest rate, get rid of it. I think anything where we're going to use other assets or maybe take another loan, we have to commit ourselves to the discipline that, okay, now how are we going to get that paid down?
Exactly.
So there's solutions, but you also got to have some commitment for how to whittle it down in the face of these higher expenses.
Yeah, because then if you think about it, you're trading a higher interest rate debt for a lower interest rate debt. Still debt, so to your point,
right.
We still need a plan, still need a strategy, but at least maybe you're not paying so much in interest.
Absolutely. And I think the good news is it's not going to be like this forever, right? Inflation and the burden of higher interest rates, although there's some opportunity there, but the burden of it, we're not going to be dealing with it forever. There's going to take a shakeout period to get it going the other way, but hopefully this is a short-term phenomenon. And again, people who have questions, they can certainly call and ask us. So I guess in closing, and I'll toss it over to both of you. I mean, we get tough questions all the time. I mean, and some of these aren't nearly as tough as other ones, but I think, well, I know that's really why we're here. It's what we do. We welcome those tough questions to help people kind of figure all this stuff out. Because I can tell you the balance sheet stuff, analyzing a portfolio or a group of accounts, that's easy, right? And everyone does that in our business. It's the ability to answer these questions for clients and help them walk it through and get them on the right path, I think, is what differentiates us from anybody else that's out there. Thoughts?
Yeah, so just yesterday we had some high school students that were taking a look at finance, and they were interested in shadowing us, and had that same conversation with them. And
Coriezu women.
Coriezu, there it is right there, yeah. And how we really get to make a difference, because subjective and objective. We get to come in and be objective about something that's very emotional and to really help out, because that's what most of these are. If you look at the questions that we went through, they're hey, I don't know how to emotionally deal with this.
Right.
Because they're all going to have a math answer, but that doesn't mean it's the right answer.
100%. 100%. Great thoughts. Cody?
Yeah, piggyback off of what Jay says, it's being able to help clients with the questions that maybe they can't get to it mathematically, and maybe think of it a different way or put it into a different perspective, based upon how many times we run across these types of scenarios. So we love the questions, and really that's why we're here to help out with them, and hopefully get to your goals and your answers that get you to retirement and get you not asking to buy gold. No.
Don't buy.
There it is.
Don't buy gold, and don't buy it on a credit card.
Oh gosh.
Right?
That's right.
Okay. With that as a closing, I want to thank everyone for joining us and listening to our musings here in October. If you have any friends or family that have some of these tough questions going on, please feel free to share the podcast with them. Give them the phone number. If you have questions, call, use the Cetera email, use our dedicated text line. We're happy to answer any questions you have or any questions for people in your lives that are important to you. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Go Mizzou, go Blues, and we'll catch you guys next month.